इस मुहिम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए अब मैं स्वागत करना चाहता हूं छत्तीसगढ़ के मुख्यमंत्री भूपेश बघेल जी का। बघेल साहब, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। राजनीति से दूर आज इस अभियान में मैं आपका स्वागत करना चाहता हूं और आपसे एक ज़रूरी सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं स्वास्थ्य को लेकर के। बहुत सारे ऐसे इलाके, तबके और लोग हैं जहां तक स्वास्थ्य सुविधाएं उस तरीके से नहीं पहुंच पाई हैं कई कारणों की वजह से, और इनमें से एक है जो ट्राइबल इलाका है छत्तीसगढ़ का। इस पर क्या विशेष ध्यान दिया है आपकी सरकार ने?
देखिए, छत्तीसगढ़ में खासकर जो ट्राइबल इलाका है और सबका ध्यान बस्तर में जाता है, तो वहाँ हम लोगों ने गांधी जी के 150वीं वर्षगांठ के अवसर पर स्वास्थ्य सबको मिले, इसके लिए जितने भी हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट हॉस्पिटल है, पीएससी है, सीएससी है, उसमें डॉक्टर और स्टाफ की भर्ती की। उसके अलावा भी हमने देखा कि हमारे ग्रामीण जन हैं वो हॉस्पिटल अब छोटे मोटे बीमारियों के लिए नहीं जाते, बहुत बढ़ जाने के बाद ही हॉस्पिटल जाते हैं। लेकिन हमारी परंपरा रही है कि हाट बाजार जरूर जाते हैं, जो साप्ताहिक जो बाजार है उसमें लोग जरूर जाते हैं, और इस कारण से हमने हाट बाजार क्लिनिक योजना शुरू की, जिसका लाभ जबरदस्त मिला है। लाखों लोग उससे लाभान्वित हुए हैं। बस्तर में एक समय ऐसा था कि लोग तुलना ये करते थे कि वहाँ के नागरिक और जवान मलेरिया से ज्यादा मरे हैं कि नक्सली की गोली से। तो एक आंकड़ा था कि जवानों की भी मृत्यु मलेरिया से ज्यादा होने लगी थी, और इसलिए मलेरिया मुक्त बस्तर और मलेरिया मुक्त छत्तीसगढ़ का अभियान हमने शुरू किया। उसका फायदा ये हुआ कि बस्तर में पहले 40% मलेरिया से ग्रसित लोग थे, अब वो घट के केवल 4 से 5% हो गया है। एक अभियान हम लोगों ने चलाया, घर घर में जाके उसे जांच की 14 लाख परिवारों के, और उसका लाभ ये मिला और उसके दवाइयां दी। अब वो 4-5% है, तो बहुत जल्दी हम लोग बस्तर को मलेरिया मुक्त कर पाएंगे। उसी प्रकार से छत्तीसगढ़ में भी हम लोग करने जा रहे हैं। शहरी क्षेत्र में भी हम लोग मोबाइल मेडिकल यूनिट संचालित किए हैं, खासकर श्रमिक बस्तियों में, और महिलाओं के लिए एक विशेष योजना दाई दीदी क्लिनिक, जिसमें केवल महिलाएं ही स्टाफ होती हैं, डॉक्टर से लेकर सारी स्टाफ महिलाएं होती है, और वो महिलाओं के बीच में जाकर उसकी जांच करते हैं, और वो भी काफी लोकप्रिय हुआ है। तो ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में भी हो चाहे शहरी क्षेत्र में हो, हेल्थ के क्षेत्र में हम लोग काफी काम किए हैं। उसी प्रकार से कुपोषण में भी कल परसों नीति आयोग ने भी इसको सराहा है, और पूरे छत्तीसगढ़ में ये भी महात्मा गांधी के 150वीं जयंती के अवसर पर हमने शुरू किया था कि हमारे छत्तीसगढ़ में 37.8% 5 साल से कम उम्र के बच्चे कुपोषित थे, और दूसरा ये है कि 41.5% महिलाएं एनीमिक थी, खून की कमी थी उसके शरीर में, और इसके लिए हमने मध्याह्न गर्म भोजन हम लोगों ने शुरू किया, और उसका लाभ ये हुआ कि कुपोषण में 1 साल के भीतर में 18% की कमी आई है। तो ये स्वच्छता से ये भी जुड़ा हुआ है। कुपोषण केवल भोजन भर जरूरी नहीं, बल्कि उसकी स्वच्छता भी जरूरी है। किस प्रकार से साफ सफाई करना है और किस प्रकार से भोजन ग्रहण करना है, ये सारी बातें सिखाई भी जाती है, और उसका अनुसरण भी लोग कर रहे हैं, जिसका लाभ निश्चित रूप से छत्तीसगढ़ के लोगों को मिला है।
बघेल जी, मैं अमिताभ बच्चन आपसे एक प्रश्न पूछना चाहूँगा। आपका जो क्षेत्र है छत्तीसगढ़, वहाँ पर नक्सलों का बहुत प्रभाव रहा है और अभी भी है कई सालों से। तो हमारी जो स्वास्थ्य व्यवस्था है ऐसे स्थिति में कमज़ोर पड़ जाती है। क्या उपाय करना पड़ता है ताकि वो कायम रहे, और जो लोग वहाँ रहते हैं उनकी सेहत पर क्या इसका असर पड़ता है या नहीं?
बहुत अच्छा सवाल आपने पूछा। और इस मामले में जब से हम लोग सरकार में आए दिसंबर 2018 से, तब से जितने भी नक्सल प्रभावित क्षेत्र, चाहे बीजापुर हो, सुकमा हो, दंतेवाड़ा हो, जगदलपुर हो, वहां आप देखेंगे जिला अस्पतालों में कोई भी स्टाफ के और डॉक्टर की कोई कमी नहीं है। जितने पद स्वीकृत हैं सब भरे गए हैं। दूसरी बात यह है कि इन्हीं जिलों में हम लोगों ने हाट बाजार क्लिनिक की शुरुआत दंतेवाड़ा से किया था, और वो प्रत्येक बाजारों में जाकर वो सुविधाएं दे रहे हैं। पिछले सरकार में गोली के बदले गोली के जवाब में हम लोगों ने कहा कि अब जो विश्वास, विकास और सुरक्षा, इसके माध्यम से आम जनता तक पहुंच रहे हैं और उनके लोगों को विश्वास जीतने के कारण से जो भू नक्सली क्षेत्र हैं अब वहां हमारे सुविधाएं पहुंच गई हैं। चाहे स्कूल खोलने की बात हो, सुकमा जैसे जिला में 112 स्कूल पिछले 12-13 साल से बंद थे, हमने इन 3 सालों में 92 स्कूल फिर से संचालित किया है। जगरगुंडा एक ऐसी जगह है जो उनका मुख्यालय कहलाता था, वहां भी 2 साल से हमने हायर सेकेंडरी स्कूल संचालित की, 350 बच्चे वहां पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं। तो शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, पीडीएस सिस्टम, आंगनबाड़ी केंद्र और वहां बिजली पहुंचाने, सोलर के माध्यम से लाइट पहुंचाने का काम हम लोग कर रहे हैं। अब लोगों के रुझान है वो शासकीय जो योजनाओं के प्रति बढ़ा है। अभी 8 दिन पुरानी बात कहूंगा, जहां सिलगेर में जो घटना घटी थी वहां के लोगों से मैंने बात की तो ये स्थिति ये है कि एक गांव में 80 घर है और वहां 60 लोगों के पास राशन कार्ड नहीं है, उसके पास आधार कार्ड नहीं है, उसके पास हेल्थ कार्ड नहीं है, उसके पास जॉब कार्ड नहीं है। मैंने वहां कैंप लगाया और एक ही दिन में 3000 लोग आके उस कैंप में भाग लिए, राशन कार्ड भी बनाए, आधार कार्ड भी बनाए, हेल्थ कार्ड बनाए, जॉब कार्ड बनाए। तो अब ये स्थिति ये है कि नक्सलियों से उनका मोह भंग हुआ है और लोग शासकीय कार्यक्रमों और योजनाओं से जुड़ रहे हैं और लाभ ले रहे हैं। तो नक्सली अब बहुत सिमट गया है। अब वो जो एरिया पहले सुकमा में, दंतेवाड़ा में जो रहते थे, अब वो सुकमा दंतेवाड़ा में बहुत कम रह गया है। बीजापुर पूरे वो जिला है और नारायणपुर जिला जो अबूझमाड़ कहलाता है उस एरिया में है। वो लगातार नक्सली सिमटते जा रहे हैं और वही शासकीय योजनाओं का लाभ लिया जा रहा है। एक उदाहरण बच्चन जी आपको देना चाहूंगा। बीजापुर एक विधानसभा का जिला है। 2018 में 2018 में एक भी ट्रैक्टर किसानों ने नहीं लिया, एक भी ट्रैक्टर, जबकि इन पौने 3 साल में 400 से अधिक ट्रैक्टर किसानों ने खरीदा। 2018 में केवल 16 मोटरसाइकिल खरीदे थे। आज स्थिति यह है कि बीजापुर जिले में 5000 मोटरसाइकिल खरीदे हैं। तो लोगों का आय कैसे बढ़े, ये हमारी कोशिश रही है। चाहे लघु वनोपज खरीदी की बात हो, चाहे ऋण माफी की बात हो, चाहे वो राजीव गांधी किसान न्याय योजना की बात, इससे लोगों का लाभ हमने बढ़ाया और उसके कारण से लोगों की जिंदगी में परिवर्तन आया है। अब शासकीय कार्यक्रमों से ज्यादा लोग जुड़ना चाहते हैं और नक्सली क्षेत्र में भी हम लोग धीरे धीरे अंदर जा रहे हैं और वहां लोगों को जो जल जंगल जमीन की जो बात करते थे, हमने फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट तक उनको पट्टा भी देने का काम किया, बिजली लगाने का काम किया, रोजगार देने का काम किया।
जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका बघेल जी, और इसी तरह प्रगति होती रहे आपके क्षेत्र में। हमारी प्रार्थनाएं और शुभकामनाएं हैं आपके साथ।
So thank you, Mr. Baghel, so much for joining us. Now, one of the most important lessons we've learned in the past 2 years with the pandemic is the fact that health is not an individual sport. While, of course, individuals have different health standards and some are healthier than others, truth is, as a society, we can be healthy only if everyone around us is healthy. This may not hold true of lifestyle diseases, but it's true of all communicable diseases. We are only as healthy as our most vulnerable people. If we are to build India into a truly prosperous nation, we need for all of our citizens to be healthy. We can leave no one behind. So welcome to our call to action this season, Leave No One Behind. And let's talk about how we can achieve this. We have an amazing lineup of guests coming up. But before we start the discussion, let's take a look at what we mean when we say we will leave no one behind.
गिलास नहीं होते हमारे हाथ में और हाथ से खून बहने लग जाते हैं।
भी दूध का डिब्बा लाई थी, सबसे मांगा था, किसी ने 100 दिया, किसी ने 200 दिया, तब इसका दूध का डिब्बा लाई थी।
ना पे बाथरूम की बड़ी परेशानी है। जमान बेटी बेटे को कहाँ कराएं।
हमारा गांव में बिजली नहीं है सर, हमको बहुत प्रॉब्लम है सर। बच्चों को पढ़ाई करने के लिए नहीं है, फिर लड़कियों को रात को जो काम करता है वो नहीं हो सकता है।
The moment they come to know you that you are not from China or Korea, but you are from the Northeast, that's where the problem starts.
मेरा स्कूल जाने का मन करता है पर स्कूल में नाम नहीं लिखता कोई भी।
People with lesser disabilities will get all the jobs. People with severe disabilities like me will again be left out.
1 महीना पड़ गया, हम बीमारी पड़ गया एकदम। पैसा रहेगा तो हम जाएंगे इलाज करने।
हम भी आपकी तरह
लोगों का पेट भर रहा हूँ, अपना पेट खाली रहता।
जब बाल काटी थी, मेरी टीचर ने मुझे बोली तेरी मम्मी के जैसे तुझे बनना है क्या। मुझे बुरा लग गया उस टाइम, क्योंकि मेरी मम्मी एक एक्सपेक्ट करे।
It's been 4.5 years now. My parents has not talked to me till now, but she has been my father, my mom, and I have sister.
मेरे डैडी ने मुझे तक सपोर्ट किया कि उन्होंने बोला सबके सामने कि पहले ये मेरा बेटा था, बट नाउ शी इज़ माई डॉटर।
मेरे पापा फिर मुझसे सलाह लेने लगे कि तू बता तू चाहती है शादी करना या नहीं। मैंने भी मना कर दिया।
मेरा भी मन होगा, इसीलिए मैंने अपनी मम्मी पापा से बोला कि मुझे भी पढ़ने जाना है। मम्मी पापा ने कहा तुम जाओ।
हमने नहीं पढ़ा तो क्या हम अपने बच्चों को नहीं पढ़ाएंगे? पढ़ाएंगे, क्यों नहीं पढ़ाएंगे?
And to talk about how we can do this, we have an amazing lineup of guests, but we have with us Rahul Bose, who is our anchor, but he's, as everyone knows, an actor and director, and he's going to help me take this discussion through. We have Poonam Mathreja, Executive Director, Population Foundation of India. We have Deepa Malik, President, Paralympic Committee of India. We have Shrikant Bola, Chairman of the Bolant Industries. We have, Deepa Malik, as I was saying, is also a Padma Shri. She is an Arjuna Award winner. She's a Khel Ratna awardee. We have Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi, transgender rights activist. And we have Aradhna Lal, Vice President, Brand Communications and Sustainability Initiatives of the Lemon Tree Hotel. But I'm going to start with you, Rahul. We've been talking about this, about how we leave no one behind. And we've actually been talking to you about some of the suggestions that we could make for people on how do people do this. So could you talk us a little bit through that? What are some of the suggestions and what does it really mean, to leave no one behind?
Well, I think it's something that we've been talking about for decades. That, everybody should move together, all of us are united, all of that. But the pandemic has really shown us that unless every single person is protected, nobody is protected. And if that's the case, then you simply have to stop invisibilizing so much of society that you normally do. And so in this case, I think the profound effect it has had on other parts of our lives, whether it's sport, whether it's literacy, whether it's environment, whatever it could be, if we can learn this lesson, that you have to believe in equity over equality, equity and take everybody along so that everybody can move together. Civilizationally, we won't take a step forward if we don't do that. So that's what I mean. And it's easy to say this, in theory, but in practice, everybody on the screen is going to turn around and say, okay, fine, I buy what you're saying, but how can I contribute in my life to make sure, we leave no one behind? And so, I have implemented a few things, which is what I'm going to share with you. It's not rocket science. For example, in the office, in fact, I'm on the board of Indian Rugby now, and we have a Mediclaim policy for all players, and we have a injury policy for all players. And in my office, everybody has been done Mediclaim for, as well as their families. The second is, again, another real-life example. One of our boys used to work in the office just to help us with, fetching and carrying. And one day, he and I had a chat, and I said, what do you want to do? And we are sitting in a studio right now, like the kinds of which he said, I'd like to become an editor. So he became an online editor, and today he's earning in multiples of what we used to pay him. So he's now an online editor with a very popular and big media company. The other thing that I have done personally in the past is looked at the women who work with us and say, what can we do here? And I came across this, the car aggregators that, a lot of people have been become drivers and things. And there are some for women. So I said, look, do you want to drive? Do you want to learn how to drive? Do you want to do this? And so, yes, she did have a chat with her family and she learned how to drive. And today she's, working with one of the cab aggregator companies. In terms of sport, which, is one of my soft spots, there are so many grounds I got to know that governments have, across cities and states, there are so many grounds that schools have, there are so many grounds and playgrounds that colonies have that lie basically unused in the after hours. So let's say a school operates and uses the ground from 7 to 9 in the morning. उसके बाद बच्चे जाते हैं अंदर पढ़ाई करने के लिए, तो खाली रहता है ग्राउंड. शाम को they probably use it from 3 to 5, उसके बाद भी खाली रहता है. So why can't you give us these grounds and let boys and girls who don't have access to playing facilities to play there? These are really simple things that even as a parent of a child, you can go into your school, you can go into the colony, you can go into the building society and say, देखो ये तो बिल्कुल खाली है. Why don't we use this, give it to people to use, provided we are comfortable, they can utilize these facilities. That's kind of an aggregation, if you know what I mean, of spaces that are available that we don't do. So it's all of this. And finally, this is advertisements all over, but I think given the fact that we are who we are, to tip generously, to give the extra money, especially during the pandemic, it really goes a long way in the building, in the colony, to just open just a little bit. It's such a small thing, but I think it shows a sensitivity that we need to, all of us need to display just a little bit more of in these times and forever after this. I think we should not stop. This should be something that should continue.
Yeah, actually, very good points, and I hope people listen to you and actually implement that. Well done. Yeah.
Just to talk to a quick question to Poonam Mutreja. Thank you very, very much. It's an honor to have you with us. And you've always stressed very strongly on the empowerment of women, on their education, on their rights. Actually, economists, from my hat as an economist, have said, invest in women, you get the biggest returns to your economy compared to men. You got that?
Yeah, I can add to it also.
But actually there's one bit of good news as a cephalogist hat. Women's turnout in elections used to be 25% less than men. Now it's higher than men. More women are coming out to vote than men are. So they are fighting for themselves as well. But how do you see this going forward? In other areas, women in India are still neglected, right?
Yes, so I couldn't agree with you more. If you invest in women, not only will their families prosper, but society and the country prospers, and there's data to show that. There are, women, there is huge progress we have made as far as women's education, primary education goes. Longevity and maternal mortality has decreased. Women used to have 6 children in 1950, and today they have 2.2 children. But the way I want to respond to your question is that you're right. Women's aspirations have changed. Women want fewer children. They need access to reproductive and family planning services. And the entire burden of not just producing children, but also, which is a privilege, by the way, that women have, but for family planning is put on women. 75% of sterilizations is what women experience, and men 0.3%. And people like you, when you have this big asset associated with you, one of the most heard people in India, Mr. Bachchan, we really need to get men take greater responsibility, and you have the convening role of potential of persuading millions of men to take greater responsibility, because not only will population stabilize, but women desire to have fewer children will be met, and women, it leads to higher economic growth, but it also leads to having fertility decline will and population stabilization will also lead to decreasing maternal mortality. It will increase incomes. Children will get greater attention. There'll be fewer women having to have endless babies waiting for a boy. Third area where we really need to invest in women is nutrition. A country where 54% of the women are undernourished cannot prosper, not only from a health point of view, but any other point of view, including economics. Fourth area, while there is parity for education increasing at the primary health, but women are still struggling to be in higher education. Women are still struggling even for secondary education. As far as access to health goes, women not only get the last and the least to eat, but even the last and the least health. It's only when women are critically ill, they are taken to hospitals and facilities. 40% of women continue to deliver babies in the house, especially in the most backward and poorest parts of India, where we know every pregnancy can be a high risk to a woman's death. And for every woman who dies, 20% women live dying. The morbidity rates are really, really high. As far as the pandemic goes, it has impacted women and exacerbated the situation of women. And I want to highlight 3 or 4 women and girls. And the first one is the violence that has increased. And in a society where 42% men and 52% women believe it's legitimate to practice violence on their partners or women, it is something that is a wake-up call where we need to do something. And in the pandemic, women were with their perpetrators at home, locked in with their perpetrators, where violence went up. Girls had to step out of school, but many of them got married. Child marriage increased, and many girls are not going to go back to school. So given all this, there is a lot we have to do, but must invest in women's health, education, and giving them dignity. Finally, unless women's empowerment takes place and we have greater gender equality, our society cannot prosper.
Right.
And for India's economic growth, we must invest more money.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. May I just, intercept? I absolutely agree with you that, the women force in the nation is increasing gradually, and there's no better example today than the film industry. And I say this because the number of girls and women that are working on set has increased exponentially. Really? A lot of people used to take this as a joke when I used to say that, initially in my days there were just 2 women on set, the leading lady and her mother. But now, there are lots of young girls who are working in all kinds of departments. Assistant directors, camera people, set designers, looking after management. It's just fantastic to see them.
So on my last film, they were in the majority. I think 75 or 80% of the crew are technical and otherwise.
Big change.
Yeah. The other thing is a little more personal, and if I may be allowed to say so, my granddaughter is in her 20s, and she has started her own organization where she discovered that in the villages in India, the women who are having their periods are kind of ostracized and thrown out of the houses and kept away for a time. What she has done is that she and her organization are now building special homes in the villages, where they build nice, comfortable homes so that when the lady has her periods, she has a comfortable place to go and stay there. They've already constructed about 10 such homes in a village in Maharashtra, and this work is going on. What I'm trying to say is that at such a young age, young girls are thinking in this direction.
Lovely.
And that's a wonderful thought that should actually spread out to a lot more women in the country.
What organization is this? Is her?
Her ARA. That's the name of the organization.
Wow.
She started it herself, and along with 2-3 young girls, they start this, and they've already built 10 homes.
Fantastic.
Where they provide all the facilities, all the comfort that a woman that is having a period and used to get thrown out is now can go there and stay there comfortably.
But the thing is, when a generation like mine was awakened to social consciousness, the next generation moves from social consciousness to to social activism.
Yeah.
If things go right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what appears to have happened with your granddaughter, because that's now they're saying not just this is happening, it's bad. This is happening, it's bad. What can be done about it? I'm going to do something.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Very true.
Very strong views they have. They have strong views on education, how to educate women, how to look after their health. They're actually making, medications which improve health, nutrition, particularly for women.
Right.
I mean, at this young age to be doing all this
need it the most,
is very commendable.
Wonderful.
Okay, I have a question for Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. You are an inspiration, you're a powerful role model, you fight for the rights of the trans community. Do you feel that there is more acceptance now, or that there is still a lot more that needs to be done?
There is acceptance, but then the acceptance is at times I find it very tokenistic. Because now inclusion is a very big word internationally and even nationally. India is a role model for the transgender rights movement. Today, our parliament has passed Transgender Act. We have transgender policies. There are many things which have rolled out, but leaving no one behind when we talk. Then where the stigma and the preconceived notion is so high that till today, even forget about, people at the streets who are begging at the signals, or who are selling their bodies, or who are, doing the traditional work. Even a person like Lakshmi also gets stigma and discriminated at times. And the whole issue of inclusion is a very big question mark, because at times I feel that we all have to not be tokenistic, but we have to be realistic. Now, the entire whole system of the social sector, yesterday I was speaking to UNAIDS, Solidarity Fund people, and there I said we have to make entrepreneurs from the community, and where we shouldn't see, we have giving services to the community, forget it, make them socio-economically stable, from where they earn themselves with dignity. And we have to open our doors. Today in this country, when we talk about CSR funds, there is no mandatory about CSR funds, spending for transgender. Even 1% is also spent. There would be a lot what can be done. But, leaving no one behind when we talk, I believe access to quality health services, access to proper home, proper, sanitized living. These are still the basic questions of transgender people. Today, for example, in Delhi, there were 60 people who were by Kinnear Services, which were employed at Flipkart. After seeing the people's performances, now Flipkart has opened 500 vacancies for trans people. So one thing is that we require chance with dignity. And now this is the way the world will go. We need to give equal opportunity. Nothing cannot be tokenistic.
That's the perfect moment for me to swing to Aradhana Lal. Aradhana, you have a very inclusive hiring policy at Lemon Tree Hotels. Tell us and everybody a little bit about it. Why was it important for you to implement this, and where do you plan to take it?
Yes, sure, Rahul. Thank you. We started this 14 years ago. It was more of a pilot at that time. The goal was to understand that if we hired a person with disability, how will our organization be able to train that person, give them an equal chance, and have them participate in the product and the service of the hotel company? We realized pretty quickly that you have to first prepare the organization. So while it makes a lot of business sense to bring in people with different needs and different abilities, the organization must be ready first. So we did a lot of work with sensitization and briefing and training of all our 8,000 employees as we were bringing in these different disabilities. So we started with deaf, we moved to physical handicap, then we worked with low vision and visually impaired. About 7 years ago, we started work with intellectual disability. Now in India, disability itself is a big social taboo. But if you look at intellectual disability, it becomes a much bigger challenge. And we had to work really around it from a community perspective and a social perspective to bring in people with Down syndrome, slow learners, people with mild MR, autism, and so on. We also started work with acid survivors. This is another kind of disability that is growing in India, and it's really one of the most difficult ones, actually. I want to also make a statement that other than disability, we also bring in people from economically and socially marginalized backgrounds. This includes orphans, abandoned girls, widows, divorcees, battered women, and we've started work very recently with trans people. And in fact, we want to grow that segment. So we're focused on that for the future. What works well for us and why we do this? You asked, why do we go for this? You know, there is 2-3 things that happen. Look at it from an HR or an employee perspective. There is a sense of energy. There is a sense of positivity that gets created in the organization. It's like a culture building activity. And people feel that they belong to this organization, whether it is the people with disability or the people without, it doesn't matter. They both feel very proud and very satisfied to be part of an organization that is so inclusive. Because not only do we train and bring in people with disability, we also learn things from them. You know, because they negotiate their whole life with that particular special need, their other abilities are stronger. So we really do try to focus on the ability and not the disability. We match the job. There's a huge process of job mapping that takes place. So whether you look at the front office role, you look at the role of the person in the coffee shop, you look at a housekeeping role, we will look at it task by task and understand that would a deaf person be able to perform all these 20, 30 tasks?
I just wanted to ask you something on that. I think it's just wonderful what you're doing. And, you know, 14 years ago you started. In that process, how do your guests react, and do they need sensitization? And, you know, because society is not as advanced in the kind of inclusion that you're talking about, which is absolutely wonderful.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Roy. It does take a little bit of awareness building. So what we do is through our messaging, whether it's our website or our social media, we try to very gently bring in this idea that we are an inclusive company, and we highlight people of different needs and different abilities and on different occasions. When guests come into the hotel, sometimes they don't know anything about this. They're their first time guests. So there is a particular introductory card that a person with disability wears, especially the deaf person, because if the guest starts talking to him and he's not able to hear you, maybe the guest will think he's not a good hotelier, which we don't want, right? So that little card says that I'm not able to hear and speak, and if you write down what you want, I'll be happy to help you. Now, we've noticed that the reaction of guests initially might be of surprise, but within a few seconds, it turns to something very positive because they realize that we are making this very mainstream, and it's not something we're doing for charity or social. You know, they understand it's our HR policy, it's our business model, they get it. And when they observe this person who's very well trained, when they observe the person going about doing his task, and he's doing it or she's doing it as well as any other, then they are very assured. They say, yes, of course, we're getting the service that we want. In fact, customers have gone online to various blogs and written very good stuff about Lemon Tree. They have named that person with disability. They have specified that I got service that was as good as or better than what I get in any other hotel. So we found that really heartening and really positive. And that's why we focus a lot on sensitizing our own employees and on training the employees with disability. One more thing happens. When a guest comes who is a person with special needs, he likes to stay at Lemon Tree hotels. And the reason is, he says that the staff are very well sensitized. They understand what it means to engage with a person with disability. And as a guest, if I'm on a wheelchair, or if I'm visually impaired, or if I'm deaf, they treat me with a lot of dignity and respect. Now imagine it becomes a reason for customers to choose us as well.
Yeah, that's a big change. Yeah, fantastic, fantastic.
This is to Shrikant Bolaji. Roland Industries, which you founded, it also has a very diverse hiring policy. More than, I believe, 50% of your workforce is differently able. You yourself were the first international blind student at MIT, and after you faced a lot of rejection in India. So how important is it for more individuals and corporates to adopt this diversity in hiring, this policy of adopting in hiring as a step towards a more inclusive society. I mean, what you've done and going to MIT is not a joke at all. But many congratulations to you and well done.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll get back to Srikanth in a bit. I have a question for Deepa. Deepa and I have met many times before, so we've even talked about this in the past. Deepa, you're a Khel Ratna awardee, you're a Paralympic medalist, you're the president of the Paralympic Committee of India. What are the challenges in your daily life, though, outside of the glamour of the sports arena, etc., in your daily life? Because we all know India has some of the poorest disability access spaces, especially in the public domain. So if you can give us some idea of the challenges you face, I think that will really shine a light on the challenges that everyone struggles with on a daily basis in this country. Those who can't, those who are challenged in one way or the other.
Thank you, Rahul. Yes, challenges are there, but my country is fast changing. The fact that I am a member of the panel right here, right now, treated at par, and we are having this discussion itself shows that we are at the cusp of very good change. Talking about challenges, I have been hearing the conversation since morning, and I have been listening to this word, access to good health, access to vaccination, access to nutrition, access to employability. Let me just say that for me, or for anybody in disability, the first word itself is the biggest challenge. You just have to pick up access and call it accessibility, and that itself is the challenge. So access to health, access to nutrition, access to opportunities will come only when we have first discussed accessibility. And accessibility, not just a physical accessibility where I talk about tactile tiles, I talk about ramps, I talk about public transportation, or I talk about the pathways or the footpaths or universal accessibility. But I will also talk about accessibility in the minds of the people. The mindset should also be accessible, where you accept disability as, just a person living in a disability does not become an outcast or all the taboos around it. And then also comes the accessibility in the digital world. The pandemic has made the entire world digital. They have come to realize that work from home is possible. Even those who did not have a disability contributed to the economies, to the workforce, to continuity of maintaining work in any organization from home and through the digital platforms. Now, all websites are accessible. All digital applications, softwares are accessible. So that is another very strong part of accessibility that I talk about. So these are the major challenges. Infrastructure, mindsets, digitalization has come a big way. But the silver lining in the pandemic has been that work can be done from home. People who are mobile, who have mobility challenges, that does not mean that they cannot participate in economy. They can also sit on a computer at home and contribute to any economy. And practically the world has moved from home now. So I hope that has increased faith in abilities of people with disabilities. One. And I would also like to add here that if opportunities are not served, thanks to the policies which have become inclusive, I can talk about sports. Not a single policy discriminates with players in disability. And the results are showing. The entire nation has celebrated medals, gold medals, the world records that have recently been created. Pandemic's win of humanity was nothing but Olympics and Paralympics, where the whole world came together and celebrated fitness through sports. They celebrated coming together. That was, I think, the first platform post-pandemic where the entire world came together and the entire world looked at it that, yes, health and fitness is possible and a healthy competition is possible during pandemic. And through that, India celebrated 19 medals that were just won in Tokyo 2020, which itself says, if I may quote statistics, there were 2.6 million hits coming on one single update of a medal won by a physically challenged athlete, by a para-athlete for India. And International Paralympic Committee, United Nations, they were so happy, and we were personally getting calls of congratulations that India is responding so well to these medals. The maximum social media engagement has come through India. And we were given a special letter of appreciation, which means that India is ready to celebrate a physically challenged person and their abilities. They are loving their achievements. They are calling them sources of inspiration, and not just inspiration, but also jubilation and respect for the tricolor. So this is the changing India. And like Aradhana said, more opportunities and mainstream, and not just empathy. Fitness, I think sports is the biggest medium and best medium to socially integrate. When you see one physically challenged person playing in a sporting arena along with 10 people with no disability, automatically those 10 families get sensitized towards the abilities. They start looking at a person with a different point of view. And that's what we need to do.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Deepa Malik.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
Thank you so much for being such an inspiration. I'd also like to thank our other guests doing such amazing, important work that we all need to actually be paying attention to, things that we need to do, change our minds, our hearts, really need to accept each other, work towards a united future. As we've been saying from the beginning of this show, it's one planet, it's one human family, we're all in this together.